Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali on TV1.
And a very good evening to you and a warm welcome to Newsline Live. And on Newsline, we ask the most obvious questions. Sometimes they may be odd, but we always keep up with the news of the day. And tonight's show is no different. My guest this evening is Ms. Bhoomi Harendran, who is the Executive Director of the National Transgender Network. And Bhoomi Harendran is right here with me. Very good evening to you, Bhoomi, and warm welcome to Newsline.
Very good evening.
Thank you. And what's your reaction? Pride is for everyone is our theme tonight on the program.
Yes.
But what is your reaction to the news that Sri Lanka's Supreme Court has said that making amendments to Section 365 and 365A of the Penal Code is not against the Constitution? What does that mean to transgender people, to the LGBTIQ community?
I mean, I have two reactions actually. I'm surprised because it's really hard to expect that kind of a very open-minded, judgment. And the other hand, I'm not surprised because it's something that's supposed to happen like long time ago. But yeah, I mean, I was there when the first hearing happening. It was like very frustrating, the arguments that they took up. The opposition of the people who made the petition, the lawyers and everyone. So it was like very frustrating, and I was like, that was my first experience in a court. So it was like, as I mentioned, it's very frustrating, and I was like so much angry because it's really unbelievable when you're asking to live as opportunity to live as a human. And so-called majority becoming your enemies, like not enemies actually, like not willing to give that space for you to live as who you are. As I mentioned to you earlier also, like my focus is not the decriminalization. My focus is on the trans protection bill that currently we are working on, very specifically focusing on transgenders. But I'm a person who also work for the sexual minority, anti-LGBT community rights. So I also had a responsibility to appear on this because indirectly trans community also being affected, by this law. Because like in Sri Lanka, people accept you as a trans person if you only go through the transitioning surgical process. If not, whether you have accepted you are a trans person or not, they will not accept you as a trans person. They will like charge.
Legally, or are you talking otherwise?
Legally, yes.
And we've got.
And yes, one more thing. And there's no specific clarifications on gender and sexuality, and people don't have a proper knowledge and information about like the difference in between a sexual orientation and gender identity. Sorry, yes.
Thank you. We've got many questions tonight, and if you want to send in your questions, please do as always. 0772 300 305. 0772 300 305. SMS or WhatsApp only, please. Straight through to here. Bhoomi, could I ask you, what kind of work do you do and why is it important?
The things that I do, for me, it's something more than work. The first thing that I entered to human rights field, I don't call LGBTIQ rights. Specifically, I say like human rights because we also normal humans as you and others. Like we breathe, we eat, we live, we feel sad, we feel angry, we feel happy. So there's no difference apart from our gender identities and sexual orientation. It's part of the diversity of this nature. So the work that I do, mostly which came from my life experiences. So why my intention was, when I was entering to this field, that I wanted to make a society which the next generation don't have to go through what I have gone through. So that was my main intention. And while I'm going through this journey, the challenges which came on my way made my journey more tough and shaped. So then not recently, but I would say recently, I started work for children as well. So I think the work that I do right now, and the work that I was doing, and the work that I'm going to do, will bring more opportunities for my community to have a life with a dignity, and light for the children to have a brightful future.
Thank you. And somebody's asking, okay, it's a long one, but in essence what they're asking is whether transgender people are recognized by law in Sri Lanka.
Not specifically.
Okay.
Not specifically yet, because in the law, in the sentences, they haven't mentioned about sexual orientations and gender identity specifically.
How long have you been, did you start your process, or have you been trans?
It's anyway a lifelong process. It's not what exactly mean by people think that transitioning process will end after, after once you get done all surgeries and your documentation changed. That's all. No. For me, transitioning process is a lifelong process.
What does it describe you as in your passport in Sri Lanka?
Female.
Okay. So the law, there is no law to change that part of it yet? Is that what you're working at now?
There's a specific circular which is issued by the Secretary General of Registry Department, and also that circular came through the Registry Department and Health Ministry as well. So it says that a person who's getting the gender recognition certificate can change their identification documents into the gender which they are expressing right now.
Somebody's asking about, from a religious perspective, how does it work? Are there any challenges?
For now, in my perspective, no. People bringing up bullshit arguments in the court also.
Yeah.
I think all religious leaders, for me, they are philosophers who actually showed a path to live, develop your inner peace and how to love your society, another human being. So I think people have mixed up with their negative, attitudes with the religion. So I think I feel sorry for them, because all religions talk about love, respect, and forgiveness, support, kindness. And what I have seen during this, repeating and this procedure, past 1.5 months, so much hate. So specifically, I haven't seen any huge
What do you think, Bhoomi, what do you think that hate is driven by? Is the hate driven by fear of change, or is that their fear or the hate, is it driven by, actually is the hate driven by fear? Why do you think there is so much of hate then?
Can be both, and also lack of knowledge. So people have no idea how to respect the diversity, and they think that accepting the difference, the diversity, will lose or will take their comfort zone away, because sometimes frustration and fear of losing their power make people to do such this kind of things.
And thank you, Bhoomi. This evening, Newsline Live is hosting Ms. Bhoomi Harendran, who is the Executive Director of the National Transgender Network, as our guest. And we are open to your questions, 0772 300 305. Bhoomi, can I ask you, take your mind back years ago, how did your family react?
As usual, they didn't accept it.
Were they horrified? Did they say, please leave?
Indirectly, yes. It was that kind of a reaction.
Okay.
And I had to leave home in sake of protecting my parents' peace. Because more than them, the other relatives had a huge issue with that. And some of my neighbors, not everyone. So, yeah, that was the reaction, and they didn't want me to go through the transition. They have gave me two options. Whether I had to stop the procedure and stay like so-called normal boy, and if not, like I had to leave. So I made a choice. I left.
Do you have siblings?
No.
Only child?
Yes.
And do you tend to get ignored when it's times for birthday parties, anniversaries, Christmas, New Year's, whatever celebration? Do your relatives kind of forget that Bhoomi exists?
Actually, yes. Only, 3 years ago, like it's almost 13 years that I left the house and started my own life. And first almost 8 years, no one actually asked me. They actually didn't care that whether I exist or not still. But 2 years ago, one of my cousin's sister asked me to come for her wedding.
Right.
And I was asking like, dude, I am not wearing trousers and pants, you know that, right? And she was like, I don't care about like who you are and what you are going to wear. You're the still same person to me, and I still love you as I do, as I did. So like, it's more important that your presence, so you should come. So I asked my mom, because I actually refused to go some events and places because like it made my mom embarrassed. So I didn't want to have that, because after my father passed away, we became actually good friends.
You with your mom?
Yeah. Before that, like me and my father was best buddies.
All right, you were mates.
Yes, actually, I'm not blaming them, because that's the society have, moved on like that, no proper educational level, and not having proper discussions about sexuality, and not providing proper how can I say, sense of this. So they were having kind of a fear that if I started becoming this, I will lose my future, and they thought that I'm not going to make it, So I think that's the fear that they had, and the pressure that they had from the family and neighbors. I think that's the reason that they asked me to leave. I'm not blaming them, because when it's come to transition, that we think only about our side. But transitioning process means like the entire surrounding also changing. So like my mom have to get used to a daughter now, because she had a son.
Right.
So my friends had a male friend. Now they have a female friend. And so like the entire transitioning process means you only not your physical body changes, but your entire surrounding, entire nature, background going to change. So I think now like they having sort of a bond, I mean like my neighbors, my relatives, but not very closely. And I also in one point have given up on them, because
Do they? I need to go to a break now, but
okay.
But very quickly, do they consider you odd?
I don't care.
But do they?
I don't know.
Bhoomi, thank you very much. It's now time for a break, and we'll take a look at this evening's headline news from the primetime news team upstairs here. We'll see you on the other side of the break, shall we?
News First, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali on TV1.
And welcome back to Newsline Live after that break in which we saw the headlines from the Primetime News team. I'm in conversation this evening with Ms. Bhoomi Harendran, who's the Executive Director of the National Transgender Network. Thank you very much for your questions. And here you go, Bhoomi. I've got to ask you this. Somebody's asking, when you left home, who supported you? How did you survive?
Well, the first thing that I didn't have a proper plan, you know, like where should I go and what I'm going to do. But thankfully, my parents were there actually. They actually didn't let me go in that way. They were, I was in touch with my dad.
Did he support you financially?
No. But his elder sister, my aunt, actually, who raised me up.
She did?
She did. She was there. And
did your dad know about this?
Yeah. We actually, me and my aunt still having a strong connection.
Okay.
You know, like she have 2 kids, like my brother and sister, my cousin brother and sister. We grew up together. When my mom went abroad, and she's the one who actually took my responsibility. And just because her that I still have a good educational background, not I'm not saying that I'm a degree holder or someone, but at least the educational level that I have, just because of her effort. So she actually did a good job of taking care of me, and some of good qualities that I still practice, which came from her and my grandmother, father's mother, because I looked at them and grew up. So yeah, actually she was there, and most of the time my friends and people who actually mentored me were there for me, not specifically relations.
Okay. Here's an interesting question, and thank you for your questions to Newsline Live. 0772 300 305 card coming up on your screen. Somebody's asking about children and birth certificates. How is it recorded at the moment? What's the rule? If you adopt a kid, what happens?
My name will appear on mother's column.
That's possible now.
Yeah, I have a female identity card, I have a female passport.
Okay.
And if I have a driving license, I can change it to a female document.
Right.
And, I can legally get married to a man, and if I want to. And
is that possibility still existing?
Yeah. Obviously, because I have female documents.
Okay.
So I don't think something else needed for that. Okay. So if you are a man, you can...
You only need to find a partner.
Yeah, I'm not going to find one if there's a person...
If it happens.
If it happens, yes.
But the law exists if it happens.
Yes,
I think
Sri Lanka, a man and woman can get married, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And so under Sri Lanka's rules right now, you are recognized as a woman.
Yes.
Right. Okay, I hope it's answered your question. Thank you.
For the records, I'm still having a hard time to explain to some people.
Okay, but what is the biggest challenge that you faced, really? Okay, you know, some of your relatives didn't invite you, maybe some friends forgot all about you, you ceased to exist and so on. Is there anything that stands out, that is outstanding, that this thing really cheesed you off?
Actually, I'm a very challenge-loving person from the birth, right? I always taking things up if people saying that, listen, you can't do this, you're not going to make it. Later or sooner, I'm a person who's achieving things. I love to do that. It might take some time, but I'm never gonna give up on what I believe. And the fascinating and the proud quality that I think I have, I don't let others' opinion to control my life. Once you stop paying attention on what others think about you, it gives you more courage and peace. So that will lead you to identify yourself. I think that's the most challengeable thing that I had, and the acceptance. You have to accept yourself first. If you're not accepting yourself as who you are, you can't expect others to accept it. So accepting yourself and then trying to, not convincing, but prove yourself to others.
Is this your real name or fictitious one, or one you have taken after your transformation? Question from the public.
The Bhoomi name, which actually given by actually my best friend.
Okay.
So there was a Indian teledrama, mega drama, which telecasted during that time, called Mahagidara. There was a character called Bhoomi. I'm not looked like her actually, but she was a dark-skinned girl who had sort of a posh accent.
Okay.
So I used to copy her accent. Right, so that name came automatically to me. So I liked it, and it's really unique name.
And your last name?
Harendran. That's my father's name.
That's the same.
That's my father's name. Actually, I didn't have that part in my name earlier.
Do you still face discrimination, humiliation, etc.?
Of course, yes, because I'm still living in Sri Lanka.
Have you ever thought of leaving Sri Lanka? I mean, with this dollar problem and the economic problem and the lack of eggs.
No,
and so
never.
Will you ever think of leaving?
No.
Home is here?
Yeah.
In Sri Lanka?
Yes.
You're going to give it a good fight?
Obviously, yes. It's sort of a cowardness if I leave the battle right now, because there are so many things that I badly want to do. And if you really want to see a change, that you have to start within yourself first. Then you have to act on it. And then if don't work, you can think about giving up. But I have a lot of things to do here, and I have never thought about leaving my mother country. This is my home.
This is your home.
Yeah.
So says Bhoomi Harendran, my guest this evening on Newsline Live. Thank you so much for your questions. There's so many here. Do transgender marry another transgender? Also, does a transgender marry a normal gender? If so, how many such marriages have taken place in Sri Lanka? Do you have the figures?
First of all, there are no normal genders. Okay. All genders are normal.
Okay.
And if you think man or a woman is first gender or second gender, a transgender is a third gender, so then what is the first gender?
Okay.
Right? So, marrying someone, individuals have their rights to choose their spouses. So I have no problem if a trans person willing to marry a trans person, or another cisgender, non-transgender person willing to marry another transgender, or whoever, so and so. Personal lives, personal spaces, I don't poke.
Thank you very much. We are in conversation with Bhoomi Harendran, who is the Executive Director of the National Transgender Network. Is there any place in Sri Lanka that has more transgender people than, say, I don't know, Jaffna, Galle, Nurelia, Colombo, whatever? Is there any city that you have more people?
People coming to Colombo, because in Colombo there are a lot of opportunities for them to survive, doing their occupations, jobs, They think that Colombo is a more accepting area, accepting city of diversity, which is not really true. But at least when it's comparison to other districts, Colombo and Gampaha, maybe Anuradhapura, these are the places which most of trans people lives.
And let's turn our attention, or your attention, to the repeal of Section 365 and 365A. Are you hoping very much that the government will actually repeal Section 365 and 365A of the Penal Code?
I strongly believe that, and let's hope for the best.
Is it essential?
Obviously, yes. Obviously, because it's a right. We are not asking, I mean, like repealing this 365A. We are not asking half of the country. We are not trying to, destroy the culture. It's a basic human rights, that right to live. And everybody has dignity, and everybody have right to choose their lives. I mean, the way they should live. If my lifestyle not harming your life, what's the matter of me living my life? And who are we to judge someone or control someone else's life? You're not feeding me, I'm not depending on you. I do my contribution to the country's development. I support others and I spread love. I do my duties, I earn, I maintain myself, and if I can...
Taxes.
I do. I do. Even my organization pays taxes. So we are responsible citizens, right?
That has to be very patriotic and so on. But Bhoomi, but other than challenging or changing the law, what changes, actions are needed by the state, in your view?
Attitudinal changes first. No matter, yes, law needs to be repealed and changed to protect citizens. But the other hand, the way society thinks about others need to be changed.
Have you met Sri Lanka's president?
Never.
Would you like to? Would you like to meet him and say something and say, I need you to change this, I need you to do that?
Oh my God, then he should give me at least like 3 hours to explain that. I mean, there are a hell of a lot of things need to be changed. The systems, the procedures. There are some procedures and systems which are like outdated. World is moving on with new technology, new systems, new things. I mean, there are a lot of like things that I really badly want to say, like if we actually listen to people's opinion. That's would be the discussion.
Okay. Have you met the Prime Minister?
Nah.
No.
Never.
But don't you think that you need to meet these people because they are the lawmakers? And they may make...
Unfortunately...
Okay, have you met the opposition leader?
Yes. Very recently, he arranged a meeting for sexual minorities, for the LGBT community, to get their opinion and to have an idea about what they need and include it into their manifesto for the next election.
Does that mean that most of you and your friends will be voting for that party?
Nah. I'm not a person who can be convinced that much easily. Because like that promise and that words have given and, fooled us by so many parties.
You've got like 45 seconds. You can look in your camera and tell us what your message is to people who are fighting for change.
First, believe yourself. Listen to your heart and follow your heart with your brain. You might feel tired. You might feel you are failing, but don't let others to control your journey. Keep listening to your heart with brain and keep fighting for it. If things don't work, don't forget that if plan A don't work, there are a hell of other 25 letters in the alphabet. Change the strategy.
Bhoomi Harendran, thank you very much for being on Newsline Live. It's now time for the primetime news. Take care, have a great evening, and God bless you all.